Welcome to KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're telling the stories of Kansas City nonprofits and the people behind them. KC Cares is the intersection of the profit and nonprofit community, making Kansas City a better place to live, work, and play. This KC Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing, Marion Kauffman Foundation, www.kauffman.org. I'm Ruth Baum-Biggis. Kansas City is a food town, the culinary capital of the Midwest. There are many organizations that work to support the culinary community, including Les Dames d'Escoffier, an organization supporting women in the culinary arts. With roots going back to 1976, Les Dames is a philanthropic organization of women leaders in the fields of food, fine beverage, and hospitality, and every possible job and position in that realm. Joining us today to tell us about this unique organization and the Kansas City chapter is Carmen Chopp. She's a board member and communications chair. Welcome, Carmen.
Thank you, Ruth. Thanks for the opportunity to be on and talk about Les Dames d'Escoffier and the work that we do in the community. So we always appreciate the opportunity to tell our stories. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, let's start. The name evokes French. So Give us a little bit of explanation or discussion of roots and what you all are.
Yeah. So in 1976, a group of women, so there was a French chef, Auguste Escoffier, who he was a French chef, restaurateur, and there was a men's group that was kind of like Mes Amis d'Escoffier, and women were like, wait a second. So in 1976, a group of women got together to form an organization of women chefs and restaurateurs, and it has grown from that point to be, all kinds of women working in the industry, from food and hospitality to fine beverage. So we have all kinds of members, from chefs and chef educators, writers, authors, and then people like me who are kind of in the food industry or food adjacent, I would say. So it's a whole host of women, but women leaders in the industry. There's part of the organization is, and the reason for it is mentorship. It's supporting women who work in the industry. And so our members are kind of leaders in the industry in the Kansas City metro. And our goal and what we kind of work on is, there's networking, of course, to support each other, but there's also this mentorship piece. And then we also raise money for a variety of things like scholarships for women who want to go to culinary school, maybe right out of high school, but also women who, maybe their kids have gone to school and they're going to change careers and want to go back to or have some kind of culinary career. So we raise money for scholarships to support things like that as well. So that's kind of some background and about who we are.
The start of this really was then to say, hey, men, we're going to step up to the plate. If you're going to play this way, we're going to play this way.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it was a competition, but definitely it's an acknowledgement that women make up a large portion of the careers in this industry. So, definitely an acknowledgement like, hey, we've got to band together and organize and help support each other. And I would say that's just as important now as it was then. And we're just at the point where we are trying to figure out what the best way is to support women in this industry. It's not easy out there. So yeah.
What are the challenges for women who pursue culinary arts? What are some of those hurdles, perhaps, that you can share with us?
Yeah, I think that, there's definitely a dark side to it, but in reality, it's just a really tough, it's labor intensive. It's a lot of hours. It's grueling work. And sometimes those environments can be toxic, for women, for people in general, but definitely for women. And so I would say those are the challenges. It's been dominated by men. So sometimes there's, a challenge with women chefs who are seriously talented, kind of getting the validation and recognition that they so deserve. So those are, I think some of probably the biggest challenges for women.
So how does your group go about then mentoring those coming in, or maybe just even each other?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is truly just networking and support. It's really just connection with other women who are also working out in the industry and kind of getting hit with the same thing. So there's kind of that camaraderie to it and like just support at this level. The mentoring really is, so when we get a new member, we match them with someone who kind of is in their lane. So they have someone who's maybe a little farther along down the path who can kind of help them navigate it. So that's kind of how we work that. And we have kind of formalized the mentor-mentee program. I know, as you probably know from having all of the nonprofits on, it's, we're kind of at this point where we have had a lot of growth. And so we're trying to figure out how to formalize some of those things that have just kind of been running in the background. So that's, I think we're working through that right now. So we've just kind of formalized that program, even though it's been going for a long time. So there's a monthly meeting of mentor-mentees, but we also encourage them to meet at any point when there's a need and to communicate as much as they need to. So
growth is always a challenge for nonprofits. Do you have a recipe for us? How have you all tried to, little food pun there,
right.
Go about it? Have you reached out maybe to other mentoring organizations to figure out how to, and you have a very unique type of thing to mentor.
Right. Gosh, I wish I had a recipe for it because it is, it is vexing, it's like, how do you take an organization with such a rich history and legacy and also marry it with, a changing landscape and ways to communicate and changing perceptions and all of that stuff. It's really, really hard. And I wish I had a recipe. I don't. I think what we are definitely working on is trying to keep, some of the legacy and that history alive in what we continue to do. So we always, on our board calls, it's always, there's kind of an older, a more established Dom who is on the, kind of in the room, so to speak, and kind of can give us that background. So we're, it kind of helps you figure out where you're going if you know where you've been. So that's, I guess, what I would say is just trying to keep those things and not let that go. That in and of itself is a challenge as well, because sometimes people hang on to, well, this is the way we did it. I definitely experienced that in my position with the city of Lenexa, in the public market. But yeah, so there's that. So working through that, just attitudes but I think really if we all just keep our eye on the mission, then that's probably what's most important,
So bring those wise people to the table, glean from them what you can, but know you can move forward and not get stuck.
Right. And it's an all volunteer organization as well. So people's time commitments are different and they're, what they're able and willing to give the organization. There's challenges with that as well. And definitely, as chair of the communications committee, figuring out how to best communicate and keep people informed of things, whether that's networking events, members only events, external events, fundraisers. That's tough. Once you start adding a bunch of members. I've only been with LADOM as a member the last 2.5 years. And, I can say we've grown by about 20 members. We have about 67 members at this point. That's grown by like 15 to 20 members just since I joined. So, that's a lot of growth for a small organization. So that's also presented some challenges, I would say, in like I said, communicating, keeping people on the same page, keeping people facing the same direction, hey folks, this is the mission. So that's kind of what we're working through.
You have you started in Kansas City in 1998, which isn't really that long ago. And as you just said, you got all these members, and during a pandemic, how has it been for your organization? Restaurant, we kept hearing how restaurants and food oriented things were hit so hard. Can you share with us how you all kind of navigated that? Maybe we're support. Right.
I would say that's mostly what it was. I think, there was a question as to whether or not, do we continue to do these fundraisers? We couldn't get in a ballroom, all of that was shut down. So how do we move to, still raise funds, still do what we need to do to support women in the industry who were struggling at that point? Kathy Denny was our president at that point, and they kind of seamlessly transitioned to being online and doing these, pickup fundraisers where, they prepare a dinner, everybody kind of prepares a piece of it, they put it together, and then people come and then they can safely pick it up and take it home and enjoy it themselves or with their bubble of people or whatever. So they really, really were, I wasn't necessarily involved in the organization right when they started doing that. But yeah, it's kind of taken off. So we are continuing to do that now, even though we could probably go back to having an in-person fundraiser, but it's been really successful. So, why jack with it? I think we'll just keep doing it. I think that it's probably been successful because people's ideas about, entertaining and organizing and enjoying things at home has changed as well. So they kind of like it.
So what do you fundraise for? And then share with us kind of the things that you do that the public can engage with the organization.
Yeah. So we raise money for, specifically for scholarships. So we gave out 7 scholarships this year, which covers a full year of tuition at a culinary school. And that's given to 7 ladies. And they're all different, like, places in their life, different ethnicities, there's a lot of diversity kind of in that group of people. So that's very exciting. Because I think that reflects the industry, of course. So we did that. So we raised funds for scholarships. We also, like I said, we raised money to kind of help our members continue their education or stay fresh, and send them to conference. This year's conference is in New York. Last year was San Antonio. So we do that. We are exploring things like micro grants, and we also go lend a hand at different things. We've worked with Cultivate KC and some other local organizations like that. So that's kind of a sample of what we do and raise money for. We're kind of open for anything, though. If it has to do with women and it has to do with food, then we, and our members can add value somewhere, then, we're ready to roll up our sleeves and go help. So I guess I would say that if there's anybody who's listening who has an opportunity, then get in touch.
Well, go ahead and give us your website and the best way to get in touch with you all.
Yeah, sure. So the website is Les Dames d'Escoffier, Kansas City.org.
LDEIKC.
KC, yep.
And I think your website, the short version I got was LDEI Kansas City,
yeah.
KansasCity.org.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Absolutely, folks should go check out all the great stuff you're doing. I know you have one big event coming up
Next week. Yeah.
And do you do Bastille only once a year, or does it repeat, even though Bastille Day I know is only one day?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we do Bastille Day only one day, and that's around Bastille Day. But we also do these. Last year we did Supper Club, which also was kind of a bagged dinner that people could take. It's basically a dinner for two, and we put it in a nice bag, and people come and pick it up. And we've kind of changed the format of those this year, but we're exploring some more of those, kind of where people come and pick up a bag and go. But Bastille Day is just once a year.
Well, goody. I hope, as someone who enjoys food and good food, I hope you do more of that so that we can take opportunities to enjoy the expertise. You do have such a cross section of members. Can you talk a little bit about the diversity in terms of what you do?
Yeah, sure. I would say, let's take Bastille Day, for example. It's a bag that is put together, like the pieces are put together by different members, whether it's French. So Kate Smith, who owns Butterfields, which is a bakery in the public market, is making macarons and contributing that. We have, women who are in the fine beverage industry who are putting together a special cocktail for the bag. We have, different chefs and we have a cookbook author making and food writer making special bread for the bag. What else?
So you have chefs, you have writers who may not really touch making something, but cover the food industry, for example.
Right.
I think it's so interesting, the diversity of job, which sometimes in culinary, I'll just say for myself, you think it's the chef maybe, or the front staff, but there's so many different jobs and things that come into that. We're talking with Carmen Chopp with Dame d'Escoffier, an organization of women supporting women in the culinary arts. Talk about your journey into the organization. What's your background?
Oh, sure. So I actually am the manager at the Lenexa Public Market, which is the Kansas City Metro's first kind of public market food hall. I've been with the city for the last 6 years, actually. Before that, and how I kind of came to know even about the organization, I was a co-founder in a small flavored nut company called These Nuts. And that's actually how I'm actually a lawyer as well. So I was practicing law, and I had this little side food business with some friends. And that's how I came to know about my current position. My boss reached out to me as a part of the nut company and said, "Hey, we're building this public market, and there may be some opportunity for your business to have a little retail space in there. Would you come watch our presentation and see?" And I said, "Sure." So I went out and looked at the presentation. We had just launched our little nut company, so it wasn't necessarily, we weren't at that point yet, but I listened to the presentation and we got to talking about my background, which small food business owner, lawyer. I moved actually to Kansas City from Denver as the general manager for Crate and Barrel when they opened at 119th and Rose. So I had some retail management experience. So it's kind of this weird combination of skills and experience that uniquely qualified me to run a food hall with all of these different aspects to it. And when I first took the position 6 years ago, my first call was to my friend Jenny Vergara, who is a food writer and founder of Test Kitchen, which is an underground supper club. And she said, "I have this organization that you need to be a part of." And, remember when I said you have to have a certain level of experience? Well, you have to have 5 years of experience in the industry in order to really qualify to be a member. And I didn't have that much experience yet, which is why it took me a few years to become a member. So I finally became a member in 2020, in September of 2020, when I'd had 5 years of experience. So that's kind of my journey to the organization. And I think I was in as a member for about 4 or 5 months when Jenny roped me into becoming the chair of the communications committee. So since then, yeah, I've been a board member and done a number of things, working through those challenges, that I mentioned. So
what have you, as a chef, a food creator, and then working in the industry in another kind of capacity, how have you benefited? What have you gotten from being part of the organization?
I think the camaraderie piece for me, because what I do is so unique, and it's just nice to be able to connect with other women who are at that level and who work in the industry. So that's been really great for me. The other thing is it just fills my cup, just personally supporting other women and being able at some point to mentor other women in a formal program, I think is exciting to me. Like, I think sending women to culinary school and raising money to do that is something personally that I'm passionate about. So, I have 4 daughters.
You're looking out.
Like, I support women organizations that support women. So this is no different. And I really, really have appreciated the friendships, that I have made through the organization. So.
Have you been matched up in a mentor relationship yet?
I have. I actually was a mentee. I haven't been asked to be a mentor yet, but I was a mentee. And Christy Sigler, who works, this is to talk about, the diversity of women in jobs. She is, I'm going to butcher her title. She's a vice president of Fleshman Hillard in the food section. And she was my mentor. So we're both kind of, in those kind of food adjacent jobs. And so that's why I was matched with Christy. She's super, super smart, super bright. Yeah. So.
And helped you to have somebody to, I would think, listen, at least somebody you can commiserate with, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. And she's also really, really positive. So, it's really nice to have someone when you're, you can let it get you down, but to have someone who's just super positive and supportive, I think is most of it, really. It's someone to say, all right, like, dust yourself off, get back up. So yeah, that's who Christy is. She's super positive.
Well, that's great that you've gotten to experiencing that, and hopefully then you're on your way to be the mentor for somebody else, especially when you've had this huge growth. I wanted to go back and ask, and you may not have the, hard dollar answer. What does it cost for a year of culinary school, for example? I don't have any idea. I mean, we know what colleges are charging these days.
Yeah. Johnson County, which is where most people go, or they'll go to K-State or something around here. Our max scholarship is, I want to say it's $3,000 a semester. But for Johnson County, I think it's like $1,500 to $1,800 a semester. So it's about $3,000 for the year. Which is, by comparison, I think if you think about the Culinary Institute of America and other culinary schools are really expensive, but most everybody that we have funded have gone to Johnson County or some local culinary program.
Well, that's great that you're able to, all boats rise and, give this to female students. I'm assuming they're all female students.
Yep.
What do you see, having been a member of this organization and working at the public market? What is the situation with women in culinary arts? Are we stepping up in numbers? Are we having those opportunities?
Well, the landscape is definitely changing. I think there have been even locally, some issues that, with men in the industry that have kind of cracked open the challenges of women in that environment. And so I think as a result, things are shifting right now. One of our members tells a story of, she wanted to work on the line right out of college. She wanted to go to work on the line. She wanted to be a chef. She wanted to be in the kitchen, and was told that that's not where she should be. She should be front of house. And I think that wasn't too long ago. So there are still those kinds of stories. I do also think on the other end, though, that women are actually getting the recognition that they deserve now, women chefs. But, we still hear stories from them that are shocking. I still think it's something that we're fighting for.
What do you think about all the culinary shows on TV? I mean, there's just a plethora. Now it seems like every week there's another new one, and right. Even for kids, how does that impact kind of your mission to elevate women?
Gosh, that's a great question. I don't know. That's a good question. I love all of those shows and get caught up in them. But there are definitely a lot of male, shows with male hosts. I hadn't really thought about that. Thank you, Ruth.
Well, maybe
I don't know. Do what?
Maybe we'll have a chef from Kansas City. I mean, the one that pops out to me, and it's many years ago, is Debbie Gold. Who's been at the forefront in a lot of places. But maybe start a women's school.
Yeah,
I'm just giving you ideas.
Yeah. One of our members, Chef Shanita, who was the winner of Cutthroat Kitchen several years ago and started Magnolia, her restaurant here, and then had a successful food truck, just opened what's called the Prospect Urban Eatery, which is, again, a teaching school, teaching kitchen for people who may have a difficult time getting training in the industry. So she and her team will train them. It's a nonprofit. They will train them and give them a job. So there's some teaching, and there's also a kitchen or a restaurant, that's a part of it that they'll work in. So things like that, I think are great, but she's one of our members as well. But things like, what you suggested, I think would be great.
So the organization again is Les Dames d'Escoffier, nonprofit supporting women in the industry in any kind of thing. You've got to have 5 years experience, but you should definitely go check out the website. How can the community real quickly support you? Buy picnic baskets.
Right, exactly. So our Bastille Day, the most immediate is the Bastille Day fundraiser, which orders close next Wednesday, the 13th. So that's one way. Look for our fundraisers, follow our social media, and you'll learn about others as they come up.
Again, it's Les Dames d'Escoffier. Check out their website, which is LDEIKansasCity.org. Carmen, thank you so much. I'm hungry just having talked to you, and love to hear and see more things from your organization. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you for joining us for KC Cares, Kansas City's nonprofit voice. We're produced by Charitable Communications, also a nonprofit. This KC Cares segment is brought to you by the Ewing Marion Kaufman Foundation, www.kaufman.org. If you'd like to be a guest on KC Cares or Underwriting Opportunities, visit our website, www.KC Cares Online, and spread the love. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at KC Cares Radio and Instagram at KC Cares Online. Catch us Saturday mornings on ESPN 1510 AM and 94.5 FM at 8 AM. Thank you for joining us on KC Cares.